Glaminatrix Cosmetics just came out with a newer version of their Nearly Natural eyeshadow palette, and I'm going to be showing you comparisons, detailed swatches of the shimmers, as well as these two looks. The new version has more shades, and they are ordered a little bit differently, and all the shimmers in here are neutral. None of them are multi-chrome, so that also sets it apart from the Barely Basic palette. So the top row are your ultra sparkly, beautiful PC shimmers. Then we have a row of some lighter mattes to mid-tone mattes, and then a row of shimmers that are a little bit more subdued compared to these. They're a little bit less sparkly, but they're still really beautiful and smooth and shiny, with the exception of the shade right here, which this one is actually a baked shade. This is first of its kind for Glaminatrix Cosmetics, and I will talk about this one a little bit more during the detail swatches. And then we have some more kind of mid-tone to deeper leaning matte. So I feel like this is a really beautiful neutral color story. I think this is a very intuitive palette, but you can still get a variety of looks. Especially, I love these two more grungy tones down here. I really feel like they kind of push this palette a little bit more outside of the box. And I did receive this palette in PR, so thank you so much to Glaminatrix Cosmetics for sending it over to me, and it is already launched and it retails for $56. So let's roll the detail swatches, then the comparison swatches, then these two looks, and then I'll give you some of my thoughts at the end of the video. I'll be swatching these three at a time: Naked Eye, Stripped Back, and Unveiled. These all pick up super easily. Oh my god, so pretty! These are very much on par with the level of sparkle from the most recent 6-pan palettes, which I'm sad to see they're already discontinuing those. I thought those were such cute little palettes and really nice to have for the brand. I do feel like these are a little bit more thicker to the touch to swatch, and they're also definitely more set in the pan than some of the extra sparkly topper shadows that were in some of the shades in the 6-pan palettes. There was one in the green palette, the very first shade, and that one kind of crumbled on me pretty easily out of the pan, but these all feel like they're very much nice and settled in the pans, like they're not going to be falling out. So this top shade is a really light cream. Definitely can be more of a topper like shade, and it almost has like a little bit of like a reflect on an angle to it. It's a little bit like a cooler tone beige. And then Stripped Back is a beautiful light plum with a silvery reflect. I feel like this one's pretty opaque, but if you use super tiny amount, you will be able to probably share it out. But I don't know if it's kind of meant for that. It definitely seems to be meant to be a little bit more opaque, and so does Unveiled. Unveiled is a beautiful, really strong peachy shade. I noticed that there's definitely a difference between this one in this palette and in the original. The one in the other palette is just ever so slightly lighter. And again, I feel like it has a little bit of a silveriness to it straight on. Sultry and Nearly Natural and New Nude. I do think that the top row shades have a slightly different texture than this second row of shades, starting with New Nude. The New Nude shades are just a little bit more, definitely thick, even thicker to the touch, and they're more like a sheen rather than a sparkle. Ooh, so pretty. So reflective. I mean, these are just tripping on my camera. So I feel like you can see just a tad bit of a difference between them. But like I said, they feel a little bit thicker to swatch, which I feel like I don't remember that necessarily being the case with a lot of the most recent palettes from Glaminatrix Cosmetics. But it makes them really easy to use. Sultry is a little bit bronzy, but I feel like it's leaning a little bit rose gold, just a tiny bit. And Supernatural is this gorgeous orange leaning neutral with, again, more of a silvery, brighter reflect to it, which makes it look a bit more dimensional, especially if you see it kind of on an angle. It just transforms just a little bit without being shifty. And then New Nude is a real lighter gold. And last up is Smolder. And the reason I'm swatching this one separately is because this is a baked shade. This is the only baked shade in here. And I don't think that Glaminatrix Cosmetics has ever come out with a baked shade. And they did explain on their Instagram about how that works because it is in a metal pan. Now, when I heard this was a baked shade, I was expecting this to feel very dry to the touch, kind of similarly to pretty much anything else that I've ever tried that was baked. It always has a very dry texture. And this shade feels very different from a baked shadow that I've touched before. This one feels a little bit thicker to the touch, like there's a little bit of tug to it, and it's super ultra pigmented. I mean, whoa. This is a dry swatch, and this is a black with charcoal silvery reflect to it. It's definitely the most sparkly shade out of this row. And here's how much pigment is still left on my finger from swatching it. But yeah, it has like a little bit of like a thicker texture. I don't want to say like kind of like a little bit more of like a waxy texture. Good to press record. I'm using Untouched, and I just started it out here, and I'm slowly working it inwards into my inner crease, but focusing majority of the pigment on this outer corner. I was just gonna do one eye look, but I feel like it's just not enough, especially for the size of this palette. And I was like, you know what? I have 2 lids. Let me just do 2 looks. So I want to do really smoky eye on this eye because I really want to try out Smolder. And I'm going to take a little bit of Solace, and I'm just going to put that on the outer part of the Untouched shade. And now I'm just going to go straight into Cinder. And for that, I'm going to use the B3 brush from Blend Money. It's a really great, really small but packing on kind of brush. And I'm just popping it out here, kind of in a triangular shape, and just packing it out. I did prime with the Ulta Beauty eyeshadow primer. And I'm just going to slowly kind of bring it out, and I'm going to go back with more Untouched and just kind of blend these two together, really smudge them together. Next, I'm using the Refer 13 mini brush with Cinder, and I'm just packing on a little bit more and just blending it into that shade really nicely. And again, just keeping this on this outer corner, taking a bit more Untouched on the Refer 13, just out here. And next, I'm gonna go in with Smolder. I'm picking it up on the Singe EO7 brush, and I misted it with the Carla Cosmetics Fix Potion, or the fixing spray. And I'm just gonna pop that onto the outer corner here on an angle. And I'm gonna slowly start to kind of bring it inwards as well. I did not do my base yet because I knew the shade would be probably a little bit messy, and I'm definitely getting a little bit of fallout, but it's not that much. And I'm gonna bring it all the way out here onto the outer corner over the black matte. So then I'm just keeping this part of the eye smoky for my eye shape especially. And I think I'm just gonna go in, actually I'm contemplating what I wanna bring in here. I really wanna do Naked Eye, but I kinda wanna keep that one for the next look. So I'm actually gonna take Unveiled, just gonna pick it up on my pinky. And I'm just gonna swipe it up right on the inner corner. Just like that, and then like right in here, I'm just gonna smudge them together. I'm gonna take a little bit of Smolder on my pinky, just the tiniest bit, just so I can help to really like blur the harsh line between them. That's better. Here's the first finished look. I really want to do a grungy green to burgundy look. So I'm starting out with Naturally on the outer corner. And I'm going to put this on an angle. And I'm just blending it up and underneath my lower lash line. And just circular motions. This is the Refer 13 Mini. And I'm taking a Barely There. And it's just going to go on the edges of that to blend it out even further, just really blow it out. Definitely going to be cleaning up this section down here. I'm going to take a little bit more Naturally. Just kind of blended it out into the rest of the shadow. And just kind of re-deepening that up. Taking the Rephr 13 brush, and I really want to, I think I'm going to do Essence. I really want to do Essence. And I'm just going to pop that right next to it and work it inwards. I'm going to take a little bit more. But I think I'm going to blend a little bit of Down to Earth in there. So it makes it a little bit green versus like a mustardy yellow. Whipping off my brush, I'm just going to take a little bit more, barely there. Over here, taking a little bit of setting powder on a clean fluffy brush, and I'm just going over the edges of everything. I feel like it did stick down a little bit in here, but that could just be maybe because my skin is dry there. Taking the Shine On Shimmer Shadow Enhancer, and I'm just gonna pop it right where I want the shimmers, and I'm just gonna tap on it, kind of tap it out. And I'm gonna take Naked Eye on a Rephr 26 brush. I'm just gonna highlight up in here. And then I think, I'm not sure what I want to do in the rest. I think I want to take Exposed. I think that might be nice. Oh yeah. Just using the same brush. Works really nicely in covering just like that area. Just gonna take a little bit more in here. And I'm just gonna go back in with Naked Eye and just kind of bring it up here a little bit higher. And then of course I want to make sure that it's nice and blended out here. So just going over that with the brush that I used to lay the shade down, but no extra pigment on it, just kind of helps smudging it out. Here's the second finished look. Almost forgot to mention, because I always forget to write this down, but on the lips I'm wearing Piranha from the Unearthly Cosmetics Menacing Metals lipsticks. This is one of their newer shades, and I wanted something to kind of, there's not really anything I could match with both of these, so I kind of matched it more to this side since I'm going to be facing this way predominantly. So it's got like a really beautiful plummy reddish base with a green reflect to it. That's why I felt like it kind of went in with this eye more specifically. And I purchased the lipstick myself, and then I really finally wanted to try the cheek and lip flush in the shade Warm. I have the very first set as well. They did send this one to me in PR, and the other shades that came out with this one. However, this is the only shade that I really felt like was something I would get use out of, and this is a beautiful orangey blush. I feel like it comes off a little bit less true orange than it looks in here, and when I first swatch it, at least on my skin tone, I feel like it kind of just, it was a little less orangey, but it's really beautiful. It's super easy to use, and I also love these on the lips. So I wanted to apply this one. Does it really go with this look? Not really, but we're just gonna pretend that it does. I forgot to talk about the packaging in the beginning of the video, but I do really love it. There's a very subtle imprint in here, so it feels really luxe. As much as I love a soft matte touch, I think on palettes it's a little bit more impractical, especially sparkly eyeshadow type of pigments tend to really stick to this, and it's really hard to get off versus, for example, the Barely Basic palette, where it's really smooth, almost a little bit glossy, so it just kind of doesn't stick on there as much. So with this, I can already start to see a lot of different sparkles starting to stick to this, unfortunately. But I'm loving the fall leather vibes with some of their newer palettes, especially also the 6-pan palettes, which I believe they're discontinuing these, which is really too bad because these were so beautiful. I really enjoy the mattes in here. I think they're really pigmented and they're easy to apply and blend. From these two looks, I could tell these are a little bit more buildable for sure. Well, these, especially the deeper shades and these ones over here too, are super pigmented upon first impact, so you can definitely build them up as long as you pick up just a little bit, but I feel like these are a little bit more pigmented feeling than these up here. So if you have some of their more recent palettes and you really like the mattes in there, I think you will enjoy these mattes. They feel right on par. It's really not common for brands to really stray away from their mattes, and usually if they do have to reformulate for whatever reason, they do tend to announce it. So I didn't expect these to feel or apply or work any differently than the other mattes in the other palettes. Now let's talk about the shimmers. As I mentioned, this top row are a little bit more sparkly, so it's kind of like the base shimmer metallic mica has a mixed in extra sparkly mica. They're ultra sparkly without being flaky. None of the shimmers felt squishy, but they do have a little bit of thickness to them when you swatch them, and the shimmer formula that they have in the palettes is definitely different from their single eyeshadows. I would say that those are two different kind of textures. I'm not sure if technically the formula is different. It could be the mica that they're using is different, or the way way it mixes with their binder formulation, but definitely there is a difference. So if you love their shimmers in their single eyeshadows, don't expect that same thing going into buying one of their palettes. These are definitely different, and I don't mean that in a negative way or one is better than the other. I think both of them are really, really beautiful. In general, I really do enjoy their shimmers, and I also very much appreciate that none of them are squishy. And if you've been on my channel, you know I love me some super sparkly shadow, especially the piecier texture. So I do really, really love all of these. And then these ones down here, with the exception of this one, these are a little bit more almost satin, but they're not. They still have quite a bit of a punch to them. It's kind of like in between a metallic and a satin, so it has a little bit of both. Some of these overall you will be able to sheer out and some of them not. I think some of them are intended to be a little bit more opaque. You could see that from the detailed swatches. Now let's talk about the baked shade. I definitely was going into using this and swatching this and thinking it was going to feel a certain way, like the way I'm used to a baked eyeshadow feeling, very dry, a little bit more kind of piecey, and also usually baked shades can be a little bit more sheer upon first application, but they can be, if you wet them, they can be even more kind of punchy, more opaque, more metallic. I feel like in this case, it's already really, really pigmented and sparkly. I would be really curious to see some other shadows from them that are this baked formula that are not a black with a silvery sparkle, because I'm just curious to see what the difference would be between this shade that is not baked and then the same shade that is baked, because I don't think I can really tell that this one is baked, if that makes sense. It feels a little bit thicker to the touch, and because of that, it doesn't feel necessarily too different from these, and it is also really sparkly, and I feel like these are all really sparkly as well. So I just want to see more shades like this to really be able to see if I can tell a difference. So I do hope that they come out with some more so I can really get a feel for those, and also how do I feel like those perform or apply or look differently from these kinds of shades, because I feel like these almost give the effect of being baked a little bit. They are not necessarily, they do have the thicker feeling to them, but they are drier and they are piecier and they're very sparkly. That's why I'm really intrigued about that in the future for sure. I'm always excited to see a Glaminatrix Cosmetics release because they have been really knocking it out of the park with these color stories. Let me know in the comments below if you already picked this palette up or you're putting it on your wish list. I would love to hear your thoughts. And if you enjoy this kind of content, you love swatches of super shiny, sparkly eyeshadows up close, comparison swatches, and tutorials, then definitely check out some of my other videos that we'll put up on the screen. And thank you so much for watching. I hope to see you next time.